How you doing, man?
How you doing, man? It's a pleasure to speak to you. Listening to your interviews was really fun in how you wanted to craft this story. I heard you sharing how it was very important for you to get several different Black voices in the room. And I can see the importance of that, right? Because sometimes Black voices like this monolithic, one voice, one perspective. How do you feel like having those voices shaped the story in situations that you had throughout the season?
It added, not only to add layers and dimension, like you said, because we're not a monolith, it forced us into situations where we might have initially landed and said, John Walker's a bad guy. But by having different Black voices in there saying, well, wait a minute, whatever, right? Sometimes it forced us to not land on anything definitively and just let the thing be what it's going to be. Because if you can't all agree, that's sort of the way of the world anyway, right? So you got to just let the characters be open-ended and let the dialogue from various sides, come on the backside of that. So I think in a nutshell, it kept us from making simple choices and as opposed to layered choices.
That's good. Simple choices as opposed to layered choices. So some of the things that I noticed, especially early on, because I would say I come in knowing that Falcon is Black, but that's not at the forefront of my perspective of him, right? But then there's moments, especially I think in episode 2 or 3, where he's having an interaction with Cop, where he has this conversation with a kid. Did you feel like you needed to remind people that this is something that he would, if he was a real life character, this is something that he would have to be dealing with?
We wanted to it was a decidedly Black point of view. And there are those moments all the way through, even little lines like, I'm not playing with these white people, right? There's no hostility there or whatever, right? But you want to make sure that his culture and where he comes from and what his identity is apparent, because if you look at the Marvel characters, Thor talks like an Asgardian. T'Challa talks like an African king, right? Spider-Man talks like a high schooler. Those characters all have very, very defined identities. And so Sam as Captain America needed to have a very, very defined identity also.
Cool. And you're a writer. You guys are part of this writing team. You guys put a lot of time and investment into the details of this show. Do you feel like there's something that people are missing from what you've seen thus far, from what you've heard thus far, that you would like more attention on as a writer?
I gotta admit, I'd say the opposite is true. I've been surprised by how many conversations we had in the room that we wanted to exist through these characters, but we felt like maybe there just wasn't enough time to bring them to life, or they were too subtle, whatever. And people are catching every single detail. I swear it's like the fans were in the writer's room with us.
That's awesome. I don't hear that often. So that makes sense, though. We got a lot of super fan, Marvel fans, all that type of stuff. But yeah, man, you guys did a great job. I would say that I got more investment in Falcon as a character, where I feel like there was probably a level of somewhat indifference because we didn't get to hear his backstory. So yeah, you guys did an excellent job, and I look forward to see some of the work you guys do going forward. So nice to meet you, man.
Thank you, man. I see that Nas album on your wall, man.
You see it. The Illmatic. I appreciate that shout out, man.
Yep. All right, man.
Where's the buzz?
Oh, yeah. Where is the buzz? You said
We used to be the same, bro.
mine.